Okay, here we are with Scott Hess, and we just started talking at the last episode about his connection with Bearfoot. So you got Bearfoot Sport put together, and then you started running a lot of shows with that. You were out a lot of weekends with that truck.
Oh yeah. We which had been in the 88 time frame, and we actually sold our trash company in '88. So that gave me the freedom I didn't have to be so committed to trying to be around the shop. So we were really booking pretty much full time at that point.
And that's kind of when your competitive edge really got there, and you started crashing a lot. One of the ones I remember, and I know we've got footage of it, is a display down in Florida that really all you had to do was a couple little car crushes, and you totaled the truck there. Tell us about that one.
We were in Fort Myers, Florida, at a Chevrolet dealership. Roger Dean owned several Chevrolet dealerships, and he'd hire us to go down there and do displays. And so about the easiest money you're ever going to get. You go down there and you get out in the morning and you set the truck up for display, and come back about 4 or 5 in the afternoon and do a 30-minute car crush, just bop around a little bit and put it away, and they put you up in a nice hotel and give you a rental car, and you're just go stay at the beach all day. So It's a great deal. But I think it was our first time down there. About the second day, I'd never really had a lot of experience in the sand, and that's when we were starting to get a little feisty, and donuts were starting to come into play a lot. So I popped over the cars, and I'm out there just going to kind of whip it around, and that sand hooked, and that them big old Firestone lugs bit, and she popped right on its top, right out in a field beside the dealership, right downtown Fort Myers.
And what was it, Fred? That was a deal that Fred always did every year, wasn't it? And then he couldn't do it that year or something, so he had you go do it. And Fred never got invited back. Is that right? They always wanted you.
Yeah, he wasn't very happy. He for whatever reason, he had done it for several years, and he had a conflict in schedule, so he gave me the deal. So we go down. That was the year we flopped it on its top. So we did it the next 3 or 4 years because they wouldn't call Fred. They'd call me every year.
Yeah. So then you kind of got. I mean, you were one of Aaron Paulburn, the Thunder Nationals. You were one of his superstars. Tell us a little bit about running with Aaron back in those days. That was a hard charging group of trucks. I think people underestimate the Thunder Nationals and how. I mean, if you look at how many Hall of Famers there are, a lot of them guys came out of the Thunder Nationals.
Absolutely. And I tell you, we had a wonderful group of guys. I didn't start early on. Aaron always did the Fort Wayne Coliseum, and I could never get him to hire me on that show. He kind of had his 5 or 6 trucks, and he wasn't expanding much. Mm-hmm. And later on, I found out why. I had went to him. Steve Hess had introduced me to him when he was at Fort Wayne, which I didn't have the show. And when I met him, I told him that I could kick Excalibur's ass. And I didn't realize, but Excalibur was his baby, and he didn't like me saying that, so that's why he wouldn't hire me for a long time. But once we got in with him, we had a great run, and we did so many indoor hockey arenas, but you had 20-foot of run, 6 cars, and land on concrete. It took a good truck to do that, and a lot of 3-night shows. We'd do a Friday, Saturday, Sunday show, and that was it. He was good at picking his trucks that could handle that kind of abuse and be there every week.
Oh yeah, and that was a big deal with the trucks. I mean, those things were pounded hard on that series. I kind of laugh at some of the other race trucks and some of the TV series out there that if some of those trucks that were superstars on TV ever came into the Thunder Nationals, they would have broken in half. I mean, probably in the parade lap, because most of them were designed to run ramps and not hit a fresh Cadillac from the side. That was a hard hit. So then that truck evolved. You were wanting something better performance-wise. So tell us a little bit about Barefoot Racer that you designed and built.
Well, again, that was a big help of Fred. When we took the deal with Fred and the Barefoot Sport at that time, we immediately started talking about building a new truck, because that's, again, the racing was really coming into play, and we knew we had to get competitive. We had to get a longer wheelbase truck and more suspension. And so Fred and I built new trucks together, you know, just basically through the phone, him doing his at his shop, I doing mine at my shop. But he did some things. He went a little farther than me. He went a little more fiberglass. I had steel cab, but had fiberglass front and back end, and he was trying some things with. He had leaf springs, but he had some front trailing rods. He kept trying to implement trailing rods from the front, so the suspension could come backwards. So Fred was implementing some pretty neat things at that time, and we built that new truck along with him, and Fred helped us get that's when we got the big motor. We had a big 572, and I don't think there was a truck in the country that had the horsepower we had back then.
Yeah. Now tell us a little bit, he had a Bearfoot reunion the one year. Tell us a little bit about that. I think everybody's seen the picture where you're jumping the one Bearfoot tracks, and it's kind of, a lot of people might not realize it's you. They might think it was Fred jumping the tracks, but he did it also. But didn't you got a lot higher?
Yeah, he was a little upset because he wanted to do this reunion, but he didn't book it early enough, and I'd already had that weekend committed. But he did it like 3 days, so we were able to, we were somewhere out east. That's actually the weekend we had an accident with Taurus. And,
okay.
And we drove all night to get to the reunion, and he had all of us there. That was when Barry was still running the S10, and Bobby Holman was running a Bearfoot truck at that time. And Fred had his 2 trucks and the tank. And I think that's when he just had the tube truck almost done. At least the chassis was done, and he had it there on display. But I show up, and like I say, we drove all night redoing the truck because we busted it up pretty good over there when we was running that show the night before. And I think my brother actually changed springs and shocks in the trailer going down the highway. I'm pretty sure we were working on it, in the trailer going down the highway. So we get there, and Fred says, "You know, Scott, we got to come up with something." He had magazine people there and a lot of video going on, and he said, "We got to do something different here." And he said, we were just kind of kicking around. He said, "What do you think about jumping the tank?" I said, "Wow, that'd be tough." And so we went out there and we built a dirt ramp and some cars and set the tank up, and we both went out there. We hit it pretty wide open. I mean, that was back then, to get
that was big air,
30-foot air under your tires. That was pretty big. The jump was easy. That landing, the second jump was almost worse than the first jump. When it rebounded, that sucker flew. Yeah, it was fun. That was a neat experience, but it was pretty cool for the reunion with all the trucks there.
Oh yeah,
all the people. I think we were over in Illinois, somewhere by Chicago.
Now then, when you got out of the sport, the truck kind of didn't really die. It just kind of got a facelift because that Bearfoot sport or racer turned into Giant, basically, right?
That's correct. We'd sold, when we built the new Bearfoot truck, we took the Bearfoot Sport, painted it back maroon
to Hercules,
and sold it to Tim Tesmer.
Okay.
So Timmy ran the truck as Hercules Sport at that time with the step side and the 88 body.
Yeah.
And Timmy ran that. Did real well with it
for a couple years actually.
And then when we quit in the early 90s, 91, 92, whenever it was, we finally decided enough was enough. I tore the truck up really bad, bent it up terrible, and Kirk Dabney was sharing shop with me. He's actually living in my spare bedroom, him and his wife. Dabney has a way of, when he comes, he doesn't leave. You experienced that. So. But anyway, he was ready for a new truck, and he was running all the Aaron Pulburn shows, and so we threw a Giant truck together for him. Just took built a new frame, and then used all the axles, transfer, and all the components out of the Bearfoot truck. And I think we threw that truck together in just a couple of months. It didn't take us long to build it.
Yeah, it went quick. And that's kind of how I got involved with Dabney at that point, because he had came out to our shop and asked if we'd do some paint work for him. And of course, that was right up my alley.